It's game day, ladies and gentlemen. The season opener is here. The Toronto Maple Leafs and the Montreal Canadiens to go toe-to-toe tonight at Scotiabank Arena. Dave and I will preview that game, give you our 3 keys to victory, and we're going to go over our season-long over and under predictions for the Toronto Maple Leafs. All that more coming up on today's edition of the Locked On Leafs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day.
You're Locked On Maple Leafs, your daily podcast on the Toronto Maple Leafs. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome into the Locked On Leafs podcast, a daily Maple Leaf-centric podcast hosted by myself, Mike DiStefano, and my co-host, Dave Morassutti. Today's show is brought to you by Sleeper. Download the Sleeper app, and with the promo code LOCKEDONNHL, get up to $100 on a price match up of your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms and use for details. We've made it, Dave. We've made it through the offseason. We've made it through the preseason. It all starts tonight, buddy. Leafs, Habs. You excited?
I am going to be in the building, so of course I'm going to be excited.
Let's go. Big Dave getting himself some ticks. You up top?
I am in the Ford fan deck. My sister...
I always find a way to get those tickets.
This is my sister, man. I'm going to give her all the credit, man. She is relentless. If she sees the opportunity to go and get free tickets, she goes right for it. She had to do like some sort of like video to enter to get, like, she went through all these hoops that I definitely would not have gone through to get these tickets. And she sends me a message saying, I got the tickets. And I'm like, come again? So first ever home opener I'll be at. I'm actually excited about this because home openers are supposed to be like the game to go to other than the Saturday night game.
Yeah, like I remember I went to the home opener last year and it was really cool getting to watch, the players skate out and do all the introductions. And, this year you got a bunch of new players and some, it's kind of a new era in Leafland, right? It's funny. I was having a conversation with somebody today about this game and it just feels like usually there's a lot more, I don't know, anxiousness and anxiety with the Maple Leafs. Do you get the sense that that isn't necessarily here as much? Like, I don't know if it's because the regime change, because, the team is different or what it is, because they finally won a playoff round last year, got that monkey off the back, but it just doesn't feel like there's as much angst going into this season as usual.
Yeah, because maybe there's not as many. Yeah, because the whole idea of not winning a playoff round was hanging over this team for so long. I know they lost in the second round, but like that was a major mental hurdle that they had to overcome as a group. And maybe just the vibe is different with this team too. I feel like it is. There's definitely a different mix. Brad Chaliving, obviously, he's more of a guy that works in the background. Doesn't feel like he has to be in the foreground as much, right? Like he's kind of doing his thing. Putting the onus on the players Kyle Dubas did too. I'm not saying that, but like it does feel different with this group. And, getting that first playoff round was good, but I think there's just an appetite for more. Once you taste that first round win, like I don't know how these guys wouldn't want to say, let's go all the way, and seeing how Vegas is doing their ceremony tonight.
Kick-ass ceremony, by the way. Like the slot machine they brought out that was pretty sick. That was pretty, like that was Vegas, man. That was Vegas. And like the coins ended up, they show the coins all over the ice. Yeah, I thought that it was a really cool banner raising ceremony that the Golden Knights had. And like the Leafs, they want to do that at some point, and they're paying all these players to eventually, hopefully, get that opportunity to put on that badass of a cup banner raising. Maybe this is the year. But in order to get to a Stanley Cup final, you got to take it one game at a time. So without further ado, Dave, let's get right into game 1 of 82 and hopefully many, many more as the Toronto Maple Leafs will get set to host the Montreal Canadiens on home ice tonight. Really quickly, I guess, some house cleaning news. Noah Gregor, that signing is now official. That was made official yesterday, so Noah Gregor will be in the lineup tonight. And that meant that Easton Cowan was sent down in order to make that happen. And also Bobby McMahon placed on waivers as well. So, I'll keep my eyes peeled to the waiver wire at 2 p.m. to see if whether or not Bobby McMahon could clear. I hope he can, because I think that he's a really good depth piece for this team that they're going to need at some point through this season. But Noah Gregor signed his contract, had a great camp. We all knew that it was really just a formality, but it happened, and he's expected to be in the opening night lineup tonight. And with that, Dave, why don't we pull up what the lines looked like in practice today and what is the projected lineup for opening night? It's not dissimilar to what we've seen over the course of the last few days, but now I guess since there's actually a game to preview, we can kind of look them over once again, or for those who maybe are just returning, because the real stuff starts and you haven't really been watching the show or watching what's been going on in practice. This is what the lineup is going to look like for the Maple Leafs as they take on the Habs. You got Bertuzzi with Matthews and Marner, Domi with Tavares and William Nylander, not at center, because Fraser Minton made the team, the 19-year-old, last year's second-round pick. He will center line with Matthew Nyes and Calle Jarnkrok. And then, as noted, Noah Gregor right there on the fourth line alongside David Kampf and Ryan Reeves. And then, obviously, the extras were McMahon and Cowan, who were sent down after practice today and are no longer with the team. Morgan Riley and TJ Brody, the blue line, the top pair, McCabe and Klingberg, who should be good to go for the game tonight. So that'll be your second pair. And then Gio and Liljegren will be the third pair, with Ilya Samsonov getting the start in goal. Dave, how much stronger does this opening night lineup look when you compare it to the one we saw last season, if you could think back that far?
Well, thank you for reminding me of Dennis Malgin being on this opening night roster last year.
Yeah.
Right there, that's a win.
Top six, buddy. Top six. He was in the top six last year.
It pains me to remember that I was actually what they went with in that as their top six. I think it's the good thing is it's a more established lineup. We're not betting on a Dennis Malgin to potentially be a good top six guy, right? We know that Tyler Bertuzzi is going to be a good top six guy. Max Domi is proven to be a decent contributor, better contributor than Dennis Malgin was so far in his career. So I do think that, but what I like, especially this year, and we've talked about it quite a bit, but I think it needs to be re-emphasized, is the bottom six is not neglected. Yeah, you can say the fourth line, with Reeves and Noah Gregor and Camp. I think that's going to be a bit of a work in progress in filling at that identity. But that third line of Nyes, Minton, and Jarnkrok, I'm very excited to see. Because that's not a line that you that's not a line you just throw out there just to eat minutes. That's a line that's going to do some damage if they get the right matchups. And with this being obviously a home game, they're going to get that favorable matchup too.
That's right. And I was looking into the numbers, and the Leafs have won 4 straight against the Habs on home ice. And in those 4 games, the Habs have only scored 5 goals in total in those last 4 meetings. So, Toronto's done a pretty good job keeping the Habs at bay when they're in Toronto. When they're in Montreal, pretty much the opposite story. So it's funny. So far, over the course of the last 8 meetings between these two, the home team has been able to win the game. So hopefully that trend continues tonight and the Leafs can win their home opener. Go ahead.
Just a reminder, this was the Leafs pretty much their open night lineup from last year.
Yeah. I mean, that's what we're talking about here. Bunting is, can you pull up both so we get a side-by-side? Is that possible? Do we have the capabilities to do that?
Give me a second. I can do that. So give me a sec.
Because if you do it side-by-side, I think it's a lot easier to look at it and say, okay, yeah, this year's team definitely deeper. And I think it's even, you start right up top, Tyler Bertuzzi is a better player than Michael Bunting. That is for sure a bona fide upgrade. And then you look at the second line, Max Domi is a bona fide upgrade over Dennis Malgin, right? And then you've got Matthew Nyes, an upgrade to Pierre Engvall. Kerfoot, okay, he's definitely more of an established piece than Fraser Minton is, but if Minton can be a solid, third line center who could play, solid two-way game, I think you like that out of that kid. So here it is. Here's what we're looking at now. The side by side, even the fourth line. Like, remember Nicholas Aube-Kubel? That didn't last very long. So now you've got kind of Noah Gregor filling in for Zach Aston Reese, and they've got Ryan Reeves, who I'll reserve judgment, but he brings a different element at the very least. And defensively, yeah, I mean, even defensively, I know Muzzin and McKay, like Muzzin not being there definitely sucks. Like Muzzin, I think, is a better player than McCabe, but Klingberg overhaul, that could turn out to benefit this team. And I like what Liljegren did towards, points of last season, where I think that he is an upgrade potentially to what this team needs of their third pair, as opposed to what Sandin could bring. So I think that you look at tonight's opening night lineup compared to a year ago's opening night lineup, Maple Leafs superiorly better.
Yeah, and I totally forget too that William Nylander had to play on his off wing because Malgin was the right winger too. Like, that does make a difference. Some people will say, some wingers like being on their off wing. I think Nylander would probably prefer to be on his right side. But like things like little differences like that. But I totally agree. Like, the guys they have let go and who was brought in, for the most part, you could be seen as upgrades. Ryan Reeves, obviously, there's other guys. We can beat that as much as possible. We know that probably there's a lot of other guys you would put over.
But he's here for a reason, right? He's here for a specific reason. It's not to be the best player on the ice. It's not to be, a defensive specialist. It's not to be a goal scorer. He's here to do one thing and one thing only, and that's, be a physical force when he's out there, and then also be a good guy in the locker room. And hey, maybe that is somewhat, a reason for why it seems like there's less anxiety within this group. Maybe Ryan Reeves has quieted the nerves within that locker room, and he's brought something to the table. So, although he's not going to be racking up the amount of goals that, you've come to expect from a lot of players from Toronto, I guess you could say that there is a role for a guy, that plays the way that he does. All right, Dave, let's take a quick break. When we get back, let's get into our keys to victory for the Toronto Maple Leafs tonight. But before we do, let me tell you about one of today's show sponsors, and it's our good friends over at Sleeper. The NHL season is finally here. The Leafs have the season that we've been yearning for. I absolutely love the NHL, and I know that you do too. That's why I want to tell you all about the Sleeper app. The Sleeper app is the official daily fantasy app of the Locked On NHL Network, and it's my go-to for daily fantasy sports, and especially daily fantasy hockey. With Sleeper, you can win 100 times your cash on daily fantasy. Use the promo code LOCKEDONNHL, and you'll get up to $100 of a match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. That's Locked On NHL. See Sleeper's terms and use for details. Today's show is also brought to you by BetterHelp. Do you ever feel like your brain is getting in its own way? Like, you know what you should do, what's good for you, but you just can't do it? Therapy helps you figure out what's holding you back so you can work for yourself instead of against yourself. If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. Make your brain your friend with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNHL today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOnNHL. Welcome back into the Locked On Leafs podcast. It's Mike DiStefano. Got Dave Morassutti with me. It's opening night for the Toronto Maple Leafs down at Scotiabank Arena. My friend Dave going to be down in attendance, and we're breaking things down here on the Locked On Leafs podcast. You can find us wherever you get your podcast from, including up on YouTube as well. We've got content coming out to you guys each and every weekday, Monday through Friday. So if you're new, you just stumbled upon us, and you want to make sure that you are staying up to date, up to the minute on what's going on with the Maple Leafs, make sure that you're locked into the Locked On Leafs podcast. All right, tonight, Leafs and Habs. colliding down at Scotiabank Arena. We like to do this ahead of each and every game. It's our 3 keys to victory for the Maple Leafs. Dave, give me one of your keys here tonight.
Watch out for the Leaf killers. That is Josh Anderson, Nick Suzuki, and Cole Caulfield. Like, if there are 3 guys that have been thorns in the Leaf side, it's those 3 individuals.
Yep. One of mine I also had. Keep Josh Anderson at bay. That man has been a Leaf killer since his days dating back to the Columbus Blue Jackets. Continues to do so. We just saw it happen again, like a week ago, basically, here in Toronto against the Maple Leafs in the preseason. Now it's preseason, so it didn't matter as much, but now it really does matter. Now you got to make sure you keep that guy off the board. And remember what happened last year in the season home opener? They didn't keep that guy off the board, and it really came back to bite them. So for me, Josh Anderson, keep him at bay. Absolutely. Suzuki, Caulfield, all of those guys. If they can hold them off the scoreboard, I think the Leafs have a good chance to open the year with a win. That was one of my keys as well. Another one that I had, Dave, is overwhelm that Habs blue line. I think I look back to last year, and I believe I had a similar take going into the first game. And that was, hey, this is a very inexperienced blue line. Lean on them a little bit. Get in hard on the forecheck. Try and force turnovers. And then, dump pucks in, grind in the corners, win some battles, and funnel rubber on goal. Force them to defend. Make it difficult for them. So I think that's one thing that Toronto should be doing against kind of an underwhelming blue line. What's another one for you?
Mine was kind of similar, but mine was just like relentless pressure in the offense zone, get those long looks in the offense zone. Like, when I watched the Leafs in preseason against the Red Wings, what impressed me was how long those shifts were in the offensive zone, how they were able to just keep sustained pressure. This blue line that the Habs have is not only inexperienced, as you mentioned, but also just not great. They don't have a lot of mobility.
Let me pull it up for those who are watching on YouTube. This is the blue line that they are currently rolling with here for the Maple Leafs. You've got Michael Matheson and David Savard as the top pair, Kaden Gooley and Jonathan Kovacevic as the second pair, and then Jordan Harris and Arbor Jacki as the third pair. That's the group that the Montreal Canadiens are expected to try and hold off the Maple Leafs. Sorry, but to me, that's not you've got a third pair and then, some question marks, right? Some 6-7 type guys. There's not a very good defensive unit. And Toronto, very solid team offensively. They should be able to capitalize. They brought in dudes like Tyler Bertuzzi. They got guys like Matthew Nyes and now Max Domi for a reason. Go into the corners, win some battles, and then try and grind it down. Cycle the puck a little bit and then funnel it out in front. I think if they can do that against this blue line, they should be able to score some goals against this group here tonight and come away with the victory.
Yeah, I think that that's got to be a key for them. Just get them moving. Get that blue line. Get those defenders moving. Don't let them
stretch them out.
Because they're going to, and you look at David Savard, he's going to try to block as many shots, right? You got to get those guys moving as much as possible. So I think that's going to be key. And a final one here for me, make use of the power play and stay out of the box too. I think that's special teams for the Leafs. It makes or breaks them in a lot of games.
It's okay. Simon Benoit's not in there. We're good.
Yeah. I literally saw that man take 3 penalties in one game. Thank you very much for that, for not having him in the lineup for that. But I do think the Habs and especially even on the power play, when they played Montreal, that shorthanded goal they gave up. Just very loose, careless. Have more purpose on the power play, especially Montreal. Teams now are going for offense shorthanded. That's the new thing in the NHL. The Leafs are going to be doing that with Matthews and Marner on the ice together. So you got to be, I think, just play with more purpose on special teams, especially with the power play.
Yep. For me, also, one other thing, stay on top of pucks, right? This blue line, when they start chasing games, when you start getting into that penalty trouble, let's not have that happen. Stay on top of pucks and make sure that you keep guys in front of you, not behind you. Don't let the youth and speed get in behind the Leafs D and then leave Samsonov out to dry. Although he had really good numbers last year at home, had a 198 goals against at home and a 927 save percentage. I was looking into those numbers today. That guy was a rock when he was at Scotiabank Arena. He doesn't need to be tested that much, I don't think, by this Montreal Canadiens lineup. So why don't we, make sure that he doesn't get overexhaust himself, stay on top of pucks, play solid defense, and win some battles in front of the net as well. That's what we want to see from the Toronto Maple Leafs tonight. And don't get pushed around either. Guys like Josh Anderson, do not get pushed around by guys like that when it comes to the Montreal Canadiens. All right, those are the keys to the game for us. If the Maple Leafs can do those things, they should come away with the victory. And hey, if you feel good about it, you could go and place a wager over on FanDuel. That is something that could be done. Currently, the Leafs are big time favorites over on FanDuel. So maybe you want to place a wager if you would like. All right, Dave, we'll put this to the side for now. We're excited about tonight's game. Actually, wait, first and foremost, they win tonight? What's your prediction?
Yeah, I'll go 4-2 Leafs.
I was going to go 4. I'm going to go 4-1. 4-1 Maple Leafs.
As long as when you let me go first, man.
I know. 4-1 Leafs, Austin Matthews pots not 1, but 2 goals tonight. 2 goals from Austin Matthews. He's got 9 goals in 6 opening night games, I think, and he's sitting on goal 299. So his next goal is number 300 too. So I think he does at the very least get to 300 tonight. That's a prediction that I'll take to the bag. I feel comfortable with that one. All right, on the other side, Dave, let's get into these over-unders. I know we're predicting Matthews to score 1 goal tonight, but how many goals will he score throughout the season? We'll answer that question and more when we come back. Dave, first, how about a word from one of our show sponsors?
Yep. Today's episode is brought to you by Jase Medical. Everyone should be empowered to take care for themselves and their loved ones during the unexpected. That's why Jase Medical offers the Jase Case. The Jase Case provides 5 life-saving antibiotics for emergency use and gives you peace of mind so that you are not just hoping that you have access to medication in an emergency, but you can actually go and get all that handed to you by Jase Medical professionals. Jase Medical is simple. They handle everything from the online evaluation, licensed pharmacy, medication delivery, and ongoing consultational care. Don't get caught unprepared. Get $20 off these life-saving antibiotics today from Jase Medical by using my code LOCKEDON at checkout on jasemedical.com. That is JASE medical.com.
Hello and welcome back into the Locked On Leafs podcast. It's Mike DiStefano and Dave Morassutti. It's a fun day. Opening night for the Maple Leafs is always a good time. You can kind of feel the buzz starting to build. You saw last night, definitely it was a great game to watch. I watched the Connor Bedard Bowl. I watched the whole game. He got his first point, and they got the win. A few months later, after basically eliminating the Pittsburgh Penguins, Chicago went back into their home rink and beat the tar off them again. Came back, scored 4 unanswered to come back and win that game. It was a wild, wild night for Connor Bedard to start his career.
Nick Foligno and Corey Perry, the dynamic duo for the Blackhawks.
Yeah, I believe they
game winner and on the empty netter too.
And the empty netter, yeah, that's right. Yeah, so hey man, a couple of old dudes out there. They're character guys, but they can still produce. What are the Leafs going to produce for us this year? Well, let's chat about it here, Dave. This is one of my favorite segments that we do here on the Locked On Leafs podcast. I've been doing this ever since I started this show. What are we on? Season 4 or 5 now. You've been with me for a couple of years here, but it's something that I love to do, and it's our annual over and unders segment. So we're going to take a look at, a bunch of statistics from players and the teams and basically guess if we believe they're going to go over or under the number. Some of these numbers have been provided to us by FanDuel as well. So you can go and make those wagers right now if you want to go and do so. You can do that. The official sportsbook of the Locked On Network. And let's start with Austin Matthews, because Dave, that's really what everybody wants to know. Can he have a bounce back year? I know he scored 40 goals last year.
What a bum.
What a bum, right? What a bum. The over-under on FanDuel right now is set at 50.5. Do you see Austin Matthews getting back to being a 50 goal scorer this season? Over under 50.5.
I would go over, and the reason why I think that is this is the first year he's coming in without any health concerns. There was no off-season, procedure that he's recovering from. We remember what happened last year and how many times he's gone into a season where he hasn't been fully healthy. He's played, but we know he was dealing with something. Last year, I think it was a wrist injury.
Was that last year or was that 2 years ago?
See,
I feel like he was healthy to start last year, but then he got banged up real early on in the season. And I remember it was that game against Dallas. He took a hit, and I think he'd been laboring for a while, and then he started to miss some games. But regardless, I think I'm with you where I'm willing to take the over on this as well. Because, look, if Austin Matthews can stay healthy, and this is with the assumption that he plays an 80, 82 game season, we've seen what this guy can do. Like, he scored 62 years ago. He's more than capable of scoring 50. So for him to get to 51, 52 goals, I think we could see it happen for sure. And especially if Mitch Marner is going to be on his line, is going to be his line mate and line buddy for a majority of the season. And just setting him up, I think that's going to be great for him. And look, man, last year, I remember it took him a little bit to find timing. It felt like he was just a little off on a lot of his shots, on the one-timer, on the power play, wherever it was. This year, I think when he scored that power play goal the other day against Detroit, I was like, okay, it looks like timing is here. He's ready to roll, ready to rock, ready to score some goals. So I think that he'll start scoring early and often. I think he eclipses the 50.5 goal mark as well.
Yeah, I think really the only thing that's held Austin Matthews back from ever scoring. Remember, like, he would always get 40. Can he get to 50? Obviously, he gets to 60. Health was always the concern. It's not just how many games he's played.
And the pandemic.
And the pandemic. How many of those games was he actually healthy for? Because we know he's always dealing with something. He's always a guy that gets whacked in the wrists, hands, takes those shots. And he also blocks a lot of shots too. That takes your toll as well on a player. So, yeah, let's just hope health is on his side and the return to 50-goal Austin Matthews.
Do we see a return of 40-goal William Nylander? We're setting the over-under at 39.5. Does he go back-to-back with 40 goals, Dave?
Ooh. I'm going to say he's going to just be shy of 40. I think it's just shy. Especially if at some point he goes back. Like, if they put him back at third-line center, I'm wondering what that's going to do to his to that. What will give him hopefully a boost if you're looking to maybe put in for 40 plus is that he's prominently in a shooting position on the power play. But we also know that the puck goes to Austin Matthews quite a bit on the power play. So I think he's just shy. I think he's in that 35 to 39 goal range. I think it's going to be very close.
Yeah, I see like 38. 38's a number that just popped into my brain. But for a different reason. And mine is just simply look who he's lined up with. And if that is what we end up seeing for a majority of the season is him on that second line with Tavares and Max Domi, I'm not as sold that he's going to be able to replicate the offense he did last year. Big reason for why William Nylander was able to get to the 40 goals last season is because he was playing on a line with Austin Matthews for 40% of his time on ice. And he drew in a lot of defenders and allowed, Nylander to get shots off. He's the one who's dishing pucks over to Nylander when they were together, and he was the primary goal scorer. Another reason why Matthews' goals total was under a little bit because he was playing with the trigger man in William Nylander. So I think if Nylander is playing away from Matthews and he's playing on a line with Tavares, we already know that that line does struggle. And for that reason, I think 40 was a big, big time goal for him. It is a contract year, however. That's the one thing that is, when it comes to Nylander, when he wants to turn it on, he can be a top tier talent in the National Hockey League. Maybe because it's a contract year and he could walk himself into free agency. If he put up another 40, 45 goals this year, man, that guy's going to garner a lot of cash this offseason. But I think it finishes just under.
Yeah, I think I agree with that too.
All right. Austin Matthews over under points 95.5. This line provided to us by FanDuel.
95.5. That's quite a line there. So when he scored 60, he had 106 points and he had 85 last year. I'm gonna go over, and the reason why I'm saying that is he's got a better finisher on his line with Tyler Bertuzzi there. Like if he's getting back to that 5-on-5 production that's made him one of the best scorers in the league, Tyler Bertuzzi is going to play a part in that. Mitch Marner should hopefully play a part in that as well. So I think there's a good chance of that, especially if he gets back to 50 goals. He's going to be hovering in that 90 to 95 range easily.
That trio could combine for like 110 goals this year. I wouldn't be shocked if those three play, like if they end up playing most of the season together, if those three and that line finishes as the top scoring line in hockey. So we saw Mitch Marner develop a scoring touch, the last couple of seasons, just the willingness to actually shoot the puck now, and he has the confidence to do so, finally scoring on the power play, which is something that remember he won like 100 games without a power play goal. It was something absurd like that. And now he's got a bunch since, but now you add in a guy like Tyler Bertuzzi, who to your point, he can finish, right? Bunting wasn't necessarily a big-time goal scorer yet. He was able to pot, 22 goals or whatever the last couple of years. But Bertuzzi's guy who can get you 30, right? So you get 30 out of Bertuzzi, you get 30 out of Marner, you get 50 plus out of Matthews. Dude, that trio could get you well over 100 goals this season, which would be, fantastic for the Maple Leafs if that were to be the case. I'm going to go the over. I'm going to take the over as well. 95.5. I think he clears it. I think Matthews probably reaches 100. I think that he does reach the 100-point mark. But does Mitch Marner reach the 100-point mark for the first time in his career? Over under set at 99.5.
I do. He was so close last year. If he maybe played in those games that they decided to sit him, he would have been 100 points. I really do think that.
Yeah. It's such a tough line. Mitch Marner was unbelievable last year. Like there were times where, I was thinking to myself, man, was Matthews really that good? Or did Marner have a lot to do with that 60-goal season that Austin Matthews had? Like a lot of times when Marner was away from Austin, he wasn't scoring as much, Austin that is. And he always seems to make the best out of whoever he's playing with. That being said, I'm going to take the under. I'm going to take the under just slightly, though. I think he still ends up in the 97, 98 range and just under 100 points. He hasn't done it yet. So I think
last few years.
I know he's been close, but he hasn't gotten there. And until he does, I think I'm comfortable saying the under could hit. So I'll
2 years ago, he was 3 points away and he had missed 10 games.
I know. Last year, I think he missed a game or two. Technically, if I recall, there was a game late in the season last year too, where I think they took an assist away from Marner or they didn't give it to him for whatever reason. And if they would have given him that assist, which I believe he should have had, he would have got to 100 points, but that's neither here nor there. He can argue about that one.
Hey, if you have bonuses that pay out $100, 100 or for 100 points, I'd be arguing for that. How many people betting on 100 points from Marner last year were pissed about that too?
I'm sure a lot. All right, we'll keep it rolling with the point totals before we get into some of our, miscellaneous categories and then our team stats. Matthew Nyes, though, I'm curious what you think he can get up to this year. 49.5. That's the over-under I've placed on Matthew Nyes.
49.5. I'm going to go with the under if he's going to stay on the third line.
Is he going to stay on the third line?
I just don't know. Like, it seems like they're going to give
projection. You got to project. What do you think happens?
I think he's going to go under. I think he's going to be in like that 45 point range, personally, because he's not getting taught. He's not going to be getting a lot of power play time. He's got to get a lot of that production at 5-on-5, and that's a lot to ask if you're not going to be getting prime minutes, right? If he was in the top, like if he was cemented in the top 6, you can make the argument for him to get that. I just don't know if I could see that, and like that's a lot. Like if he gets 50 points. That's a fantastic rookie season for him.
Oh, dude, it would be unbelievable. Yeah, like the point, and you brought it up, and I'm glad you did. No power play time. You will be on the second unit, but we know how this team operates or how they have operated in the past. Yeah. You get about 1:45 at the top unit, and then you get like 20 seconds max if you're the second unit on a power play. So you've got to rely on him getting 50 points at 5-on-5. It's tough to do in this league, man. Really tough to do. Like I remember a couple of years back, Michael Bunting did do it, where he finished the year with 56 points, I think, at 5-on-5, but that was on the top line alongside Marner and Nylander. So unless he gets a promotion up the lineup at some point, or Marner or Matthews rather, unless he gets a promotion up onto the top line at some point, yeah, it's going to be difficult for him to eclipse the 50 mark. But if he ends up with 45, 46 goals, like 22 goals and 23 assists or whatever for a 45-point rookie campaign, shoot, I think that's pretty good. Pretty good for Matthew Nyes. If most of that production is going to come at 5-on-5, that'd be a solid campaign for the Rook. All right, let's get to some of these other miscellaneous ones that we've got here, Dave. We got to kind of speed things up a little bit more. Ryan Reaves fights over under 3.5.
I'll go over.
No explanation. I just
think there's going to be times where teams are going to try to take liberties, and he's got to make a statement. So I think 4 is a safe number for him this year.
So he had 7 fights last year, but he hadn't had 4 or more fights prior to that since 2017, 2018. It's not a fighting league anymore.
True.
I'm going to take the under. I think 3 is the magic number for Ryan Reaves. I think he gets into 3 scraps, and they'll be strategically placed, but 3 scraps is the number for me.
He might even get into a fight tonight with like Jack Eye or something like that. Like that's cool. Like there are going to be players that he's going to have to send a bit of a message to. I think that's what they want him here to do as well.
Yeah, for sure. It's what that is exactly what he's here to do. All right. Fraser Minton, games played over under 9.5.
Under.
You don't think he makes it through?
I don't see the Leafs. You know what? Like it's just different when you go from preseason to regular season. I would be surprised, like unless he's going to be playing the full season here. I don't know if it benefits him to play like, let's say they do 20 games and they send him down.
Well, I agree.
Because you have to think about the contract and burning the ALC. I could see them sending him to the World Juniors and things like that potentially, if the development is how I think it's going to happen.
Which is
that I think they're going to give him that opportunity to see what he can do, but ultimately, it's just a different beast when it's full-time NHL. You know, it's different when it's the regular season.
I'm gonna I'm going to take the opposite approach. I'm going to be an optimistic person, unlike you, Mr. Debbie Downer. I'm going to go over the 9.5 games. And I'm with you. It's it'd be pointless for him to play 20 games throughout the season, then maybe send him down. Of course, they have to be sure after 9 games, is this guy with us for the rest of the year or not? That is realistically what the situation is. He's either with us for the rest of the year, and he's a full-time NHLer, or he's not. We're going to send him down, and he's going to continue to progress in the WHL. He'll be a star for Team Canada at the World Juniors, and then he'll come in next year and compete for 3C once again. Those are the two avenues that I see, Fraser Minten going in this year. I'm going to be positive. I'm going to say that he continues to prove, hey, I'm ready. I'm ready for the show. I can play a two-way game. I am relentless on the puck. I can hound things down. I can back check. I can forecheck. I even got a little bit of a scoring touch, and I can make some plays. I think Fraser Minten is one of the team's best 12 forwards. At least he showed us to this point that he is that. And they don't really have like a traditional third line center anyways. So if they have Fraser Minten just become that makes his team way more lethal in my opinion, and much deeper as well. So I'm going to be optimistic and say that it does happen. He does shock the world, shock Leafs Nation, and Fraser Minten will be a Maple Leaf for the whole season. Certainly clear that 9.5 game mark. Austin Matthews blocks over under at 88.5.
Oh.
Sorry. 78.5.
I was gonna say 8.5. That's quite a lot of them. So he had 92 last year. 92 last year, 62 the year before that. I'm going to go under. Now him playing on the penalty kill will change that potentially. It's just 92. That's a lot of blocks, and I think it took a toll on him as the year went along. I think he's gonna have to be a little bit smarter about how many blocks he has. So I think he's gonna be in that like 70 to 80 range.
I'm gonna go over. I think that I just think it's an important part of the game. And Austin Matthews, I think, is buying in and realizes, hey, this is what I need to do to help this team win some games. And you're right. If he's going to play any amount of penalty killing time, he's definitely more prone to block more shots than he did a year ago. So I think, you look at last year, leading all forwards in block shots last season. I think you could do it again and even more with some penalty killing time. So for me, I like Austin Matthews over the number of 78.5. Speaking of a star offensive player who's got some star defensive qualities, Mitch Marner led the league in takeaways last season with 104. I'm setting the over-under at 99.5. Can he replicate his takeaway numbers from a season ago, Dave?
Oh, yeah, I can see that. I'll go over on that. He's especially on the penalty kill. That's where he gets most of his takeaways too, right? So I think again, you talk about an important part of the game. I think players have gotten so much smarter with how they pick pockets of players, especially defensively too. I think Marner's been really sneaky about it too. So yeah, I think I can see him doing that again.
I'm going to take the under, just slightly under. That was a lot of takeaways from Marner last year. That was a lot. And there's a couple of players, on the team that could probably take some of those numbers away from him too, right? Like Tyler Bertuzzi could take some pucks away. Max Domi potentially. You look at what they've got, on the blue line. And I'd say it's a bit of a high number, 100 takeaways. So I'm going to take the under there. A couple goalie stats here quickly, Dave. Ilya Samsonov save percentage over under 915.5.
I'll go over because I think he's going to be in like the 920 range.
Wow. So he was 919 last year. So you expect basically the same.
I think so.
I'm actually going to take the under. I am going to take the under. Not a whole lot under, but like 913, 914, maybe even 915 on the dot. But goals are being scored at a much higher rate nowadays. And I think Ilya Samsonov had a terrific season last year, maybe even punched a little bit above his weight. Hasn't looked the greatest so far through training camp. I'm hoping that all changes tonight, obviously. But maybe we don't see, 930 save percentage at home every single night. So I'm thinking perhaps just a tad under that. So I'm gonna take the under and take the opposite of you on that one. Joseph Woll games played over under at 27.5.
I'm gonna go over because I don't think they want to play Samsonov more than I think 55 is like the most they'll want to play him, but I think they don't want to even play him that much.
I don't think they want to play him that much either.
I think they want to keep him in that 45 range.
I think like 48 to 51. Very random number, but 48 to 51, which would put Joseph Woll over the number.
Yeah, and the big one here for me too is I think it was Overdrive that was talking about this where like Samsonov had to win the starter job over Matt Murray. And obviously with injuries, he got to play more. But there was a little bit of drop off with how many games, and maybe he gets a little too loose and comfortable. And I think they're gonna want to push him with Joseph Woll. I think that's like Joseph Woll is like the perfect guy to do that because one has a contract for next season, one is fighting for a contract. So I think they're gonna pit the two against each other a little bit here.
Yeah, I mean, you would think that being a contract year after not getting the bag this season would be enough motivation for him to, have another great season and replicate what happened a year ago. But, I did listen to that Overdrive clip as well, where basically they were saying, Murray was competition for him. He had to beat him out. Now there's no one to beat out. So is he getting too complacent? Hopefully that doesn't happen this year. I think that was the crux of that conversation, if I recall correctly. All right, some team stats here, Dave. Leafs power play over under 25.5.
I'm going to go over. I think this is a team that even if they get to like 26, that's roughly in their range. Like this is a totally doable.
They had 26% on the nose a season ago.
Yeah, like I think that's what they're capable of, and like I think they want to do better than that. Like with Guy Boucher, he wants them to be more aggressive on the power play and not just be so stagnant like we've seen them in years past. I think the addition of John Klingberg hopefully will push teams to respect that point man a lot more. And I think change the dynamic a little bit of this power play.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree. I think we're seeing power plays being executed at a higher rate than we used to. So 26 is the new 22. I think potentially real soon. So I'm with you. I think they go over the number as well and boast one of the league's best power plays for a third straight season. Goals by defensemen over under 29.5. How many goals do you think we see by blue liners this season?
I'm gonna go under.
So last year they had 27.
And like that was because Timothy Liljegren led them in goals. I understand John Klingberg's here, but he's not a huge goal scorer either. I don't know if that's going to be what they.
You think Morgan Rielly's only going to get 4 goals again though?
No, I think he'll get an increase. I do think that. I think even like around 8 for Morgan Rielly, I think is a safe bet for him.
I think Brody only scored twice. Probably expect a little bit more from him.
Brody's not shooting a lot. That's the thing. Like, and it's not like he's joining the rush and getting him. Like, it's so much. Like, I think people need to understand it's so much harder to score from the point.
Yeah.
That a lot of these defensemen that are scoring either are prolific shots from the point, or they're in the rush and they're getting those chances off the rush. That's where the Morgan Riellys and the maybe Timothy Liljegren's can thrive. But like, I'm not expecting Jake McCabe to score a whole heck of a lot. He's not the best shooter. Gio can barely hit the net sometimes from what I've seen.
What about, though, you're forgetting, potentially at some point, Connor Timmins could come back into the fold.
I mean, he could come back into the fold and just damage that like my prediction.
I'm taking the over, man. I'm taking the over. I think we see more offense on the blue line this
I think
year.
you need to see more offense for the blue line. I truly do believe that, but it's going like these guys are going to have to really step up their game. It's like their shooting, especially.
Yeah, I just think that like 27 goals last year was really low. Like that's a low amount of goals. I mean, really super low. Like you said, Timothy Logan led the league, or led the team in goals by defenseman. That's your third pair defenseman who was in and out of the lineup all year. They gotta expect to get better numbers from everybody else this season.
I've seen defensemen who aren't even like big goal scorers can get 10 goals on their own.
Riley scored 20 goals like 4 years ago. I don't think he's going to score 20, but like Riley could easily get 10 to 12 goals himself. And all of a sudden, can the rest of them get you 18? I would think so.
I do want to see Riley be more of a factor off the rush. That's where I think like if you get Morgan Riley down low, he's got a very good shot when he's close in.
Need playoff Mo. Need to unlock playoff Mo early and often this year. That's for sure. All right. Individual and team awards / trophies this season. Over under 1.5.
I'll go over.
Which ones?
I think Austin Matthews can threaten to go for the Rocket Richard. I think maybe Mitch Marner has more of a chance at the Selke now that Bergeron's gone, and he can't just automatically win that award for being in the league. Although he's deserved it quite often. It'll be between him and Escher, I think.
Yeah.
I also think like if Austin Matthews is back to where he was before, he could challenge for the Hart. He can challenge for the Ted Lindsay. Like those are ones there. And I want to see this team try to go for a President's Trophy. That should be the goal. Get yourself. I know that you yesterday if you didn't listen to our NHL prediction show, you should. I think you had New Jersey as like one of the top teams in the league. I
had New Jersey winning the President's Trophy, I think.
Like that should be a goal for this team. They haven't really been in that President's Trophy conversation. I think that's something that they should thrive for this year.
Should. You're absolutely right. They should. Are we considering a division title as an award or a trophy?
I mean, you do get a trophy at the end of it.
You get a banner. Is that a trophy?
Well, there's a President's Trophy. Like there is legitimately a
but like the division, like if they win the Atlantic Division, not the President's Trophy.
No. I don't consider I want to see I'm not a fan of division banners too, personally.
Okay. Man. Does Keefe have a shot?
I don't think so. They always go with the coach who overachieves when the team was supposed to underachieve, or there's going to be like hockey writers don't like going for the obvious picks and a lot. Like Sheldon should have won it like prior to this season. He's had good chances and then he's missed out.
I think I'm going to take the under, man. I think I'm going to take the under. They didn't win any last year.
No, they didn't.
And I could.
This runner was their best chance to win one last year.
Yeah, and I think he finished second in Selke voting, maybe third in Selke voting.
He was third, sure.
Yeah, I think so. And I think he could finish most likely behind Hischier again this year. So there's that. Man, just what you've got Connor McDavid doing. Like that guy scored 65 last year. 66. Mid-60s. Like, that's going to be tough for Matthews to win any award off that guy.
He's got the money. He's gotten paid now. He doesn't have to worry about that. He secured the bag. And
now you're making my argument, pal. Now you're making my argument. I think I'm going to go under. I hope I'm wrong. All right, the last one. The one that's most important. 104 total points. This line is courtesy of FanDuel.
I'll go over.
Way over. Over.
Like that's one I'm comfortable saying. If I'm at anybody even trying to figure out what to bet on this season, I comfortably can say the Leafs will get more. Like you can talk all you want about their playoffs and how they play in the playoffs. This is a team that always gets points in the regular season.
Yeah, And it's a team that leaves a lot of points on the board. Like, they had 11 overtime and shootout losses last year. A lot of those coming to teams under 500, which is wild to me to even it's just they went 15 and 11, or 15, 8 and 4 against teams under 500 last year. It's got to be a better record. They got to improve that. And
last time in a full season that the Leafs didn't have more than 100 points, they had 100 points in 2018-19.
Yeah. So I think 104 is a decently low bar to clear for a team that's talented, a team that, as we've both stated, could compete for a President's Trophy. Need a heck of a lot more than 104 points, 105 points to win a President's Trophy. So
you're looking in the 120 to 125 range to get a
President's Trophy. I'm hammering that over at FanDuel. All right, man. That was fun. We'll reconvene at the end of the season and see who was right. It's always fun to hear like our rationales and then have them be completely wrong by the end of the year. That's always a lot of fun. Lots of fun. Do you have one that I didn't think of that you thought of that, is a quirky one that we could really quickly throw out there?
Oh, you're the over-under guy. I'm not really.
Yeah. Okay, so last year we saw 6 new additions at the deadline. Over under 2.5.
I'll go over.
Like rostered additions.
I think so. I think they're going to upgrade that blue line in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
And who, depending on what happens with Minton, you said third line center role, they might look at that as well.
You're right. Could be. There's still some holes on the team to fill. That's absolutely the truth, my friend. All right, this is fun. We got a game tonight, man. I'm excited for it. Enjoy it tonight, folks. That'll do it for us here today on the podcast. I'd like to thank you all for listening and supporting the show. You can subscribe to the Locked On Leafs podcast on all podcasts and platforms. I receive daily Leafs content. Follow myself on Twitter at Mickey_Canuck. Follow Dave at D_Morassutti, and follow the show as well at Locked On Leafs. If you enjoyed this video, go ahead, smash that like button. Let us know down below some of your over-unders. That'll be a lot of fun too to hear what the fans have to say about what we think potentially could happen with the Maple Leafs this season. We'll be back with another episode for y'all tomorrow. We will be breaking down game 1 of the Toronto Maple Leafs season. Enjoy the game tonight, folks. Puck drop at 7 o'clock. Until then, keep it locked right here on Locked On Leafs.